Okay, so I'm going to take you for a walk round Hook Lake. Just turned up in the car park down here. The lake itself is a dammed off river, a typical estate lake, and the side that we're walking up here now is actually the dam. So in a way the lake is actually positioned higher than the car park down behind us. And this is the first swim that we get to, inevitably called the car park. Fishes out to really the only set of snags in the lake, this fallen tree to the right. Again, a lot of the fishing throughout Hook Lake is actually marginal fishing, so anywhere along these margins, rod length, couple of rod lengths out, you're going to have a result. It's a little bit of a tight swim, this one. You don't have, as you can see, you can't get to too much water, but ultimately it does produce. Brilliant for the lazy angler, the person who doesn't want to walk their tackle too far around. The next swim, one of my personal favourites actually, One Up. Again, small tight swim, gives you a good view out on the whole lake, as you can see behind. But again, quite a tight swim to fish. Mainly just chucking it right and left out in front of you. Again, anything from a rod length or two out. There's a shelf that suddenly probably goes out 3 or 4 foot, and then it dips down, and just out in front here actually it goes down to probably 8 to 10 foot at the deepest. It's quite a silty bottom. There isn't much gravel, there's not much hard spots around, hence the reason probably that the margins are one of the best areas. Fish constantly cruising up and down the margins here. The next swim, probably one of the smallest swims on the lake, one of the tightest swims on the lake, is looking at the same sort of stretch of water really. This is Two Up. Again, as you can see, just looking out into the middle, so again it's very much marginal fishing up and down the margins. Then as we come round to the side of the lake, the lake's shaped essentially a little bit like Red Mire Pool in the shape of a kind of elongated triangle. This is the wide bit at the end, and then we've got the two sides. There's a set of pads just out there that will grow up later in the year. This is actually the outlet where essentially where the river exits the lake, and we get to the swim known as the pads. Quite a large swim, easy to fit double bivvies, etc. And again, they've not grown up yet, but they're just going to be over there, the pads. Quite a nice swim to fish out there. Gives you a control of a lot of the water. If no one's over on the other margins, you can cast anything over from over towards the cave, the 26, the oak tree, or even anywhere along this bank if there's no one fishing, which quite often you will find that you get the lake to yourself. Walking into what I suppose in a way should be called my favourite swim. This is Stan's swim, named after me. I've fished Hook Lake since 1984, and one of the main swims that I fished was this swim. Pretty featureless out in front and not even really very good for marginal fishing, but what I did find was directly opposite there, when you fish out towards the cave swim, which again is more often than not empty, there was a big mussel bed, and it used to attract the fish quite a lot. So just by casting across, often casting just a lead across to the other side, tying the rig and almost dropping it in on the other side, that was a great method for me. Still remains Stan's swim. I haven't fished the lake myself with any seriousness for anything up to sort of 15 years. This one here is called the Stump. Quite a nice comfortable swim, again looking out to similar water to Stan's, only it enables you really to fish across also to the Zincs as well, which are the two swims that you can see opposite us. The Stump has long gone. It was an old chopped off tree, became a bit of a table for a while and was just situated here. But again, a lovely swim to fish. You can see a lot of the water, you can see where it's all happening, and quite often a lot of the lake you can actually cast to, obviously depending on whether or not there are people fishing. Next up we've got the Pines. This swim here basically casts across again to the same water. If you were fishing across to the zincs over there, slightly shorter cast, a little bit more difficult because of the trees, but again a nice command of the water out in front there. And then onto the hot swim of the lake. Probably many reasons why it's a hot swim. I used to think it was because we did used to have a large set of snags next to the boathouse, which you'll see opposite, but they were removed minimum of 10 years ago, probably more, and yet for some reason that bank over there still seems to be the best swim on the lake. In actual fact, as I look at it now, I don't think I'm getting this on the camera, but there's 2 or 3 fish just moving across there. That could very well be because that bank traditionally doesn't really get heavily fished. The whole lake doesn't get heavily fished, and therefore people prefer to sit on this side and cast across to the other side, which is definitely the more productive area, the banks off the far, the margins off the far bank over there. But what you've got a run from the boathouse all the way down to the zinc, where there's no angling on that side. So there's a lot of overgrown growth, a lot of trees, so probably food dropping in there. The wind is predominantly fishing down, blowing down into the corner there where the outlet is, so it's not something that is necessarily controlled by the wind. But yeah, definitely one of the hot swims, one of the more difficult swims to get on. You'll probably find if you come down here at a weekend, you'll be lucky to get this swim, as it does appear to be the favourite. It does catch the most fish, but then that could be purely based on the fact that it is fished the most. Again, casting across, just dropping short actually. It's not necessary to get right underneath the opposite branches. You can be anything off them by sort of 5 foot and you're still okay. This swim here called the Cliff, again, lovely little swim. This commands a totally different area off the lake. Whereas a lot of the swims down there, you're looking into the main sort of body of the water. This is looking up into what used to actually be the end of the lake, just shortly after the pads that you can see. And we reclaimed a lot of that, redug it out, got rid of all the silt, and created an area up there where the fish do get into. We've got some pads growing here. Again, it's very small area of water you get, but can be a very productive area. On a lake the size of this, it's unlikely that you have to hold fish in a swim. They will at some stage be over your bait within a period of 24 hours. And again, you know, don't ignore the pads, but don't ignore the far margins either. So the only other swim that we've got on the lake on this side, on what we refer to as the woods side, obviously because of the woods that are over there, is one that we built at the time of desilting this whole area. And everything that all of this is growing up on is essentially the silt that we took out and put up behind us. So this area here is all totally reclaimed lake, from where the stream actually goes in. And this swim here, the all alone, for reasons that become quite obvious, again commands a tiny bit of water, and now it enables you to have a look down the whole lake and see what's going on. But when they're up here, they can get up here in numbers, and they can be easily caught. Dropping baits anywhere along those margins, you'll often see them clouding up. Okay, so we've then got the top end of the lake here. There's no swims here as such, but it does enable you to walk all the way through, and this is obviously where the river in its day, as it still does, flows in. So the river coming in behind me and then flowing in down here, and then obviously giving you a lovely view down the entire lake. As you can see, very natural lake. It is pretty much in the middle of nowhere, hence the reason we're not able to get really any facilities down here. I think to get electricity down here is going to cost us something like £15,000, plumbing, etc. So it is a bit au naturel. However, there is a pub at the top of the lane, and the facilities there are obviously available to use. Tiny little swim, this one here, not even one with done any work on for the last couple of seasons. So much so, I've got to be honest, I forget its name. It will be on the map, the lake map. But again, you know, somewhere nice perhaps to stalk a little bit. The last time I fished here a couple of years ago, I just did a day down here, and I did stalk a small common just off of the edge there. Again, casting out to water that no one else can really get to, because you can't really get to here from the cliff swim, and you can't get to here from the all alone swim. So again, it's a nice little bit of water, and they do get in here quite shallow here. This is where we reclaimed that, so we had to leave it dammed off and then obviously breach the dam, so it does go up in a shallow area along the line of where those lily pads are growing. Coming up here, this is some large old tree trunks, which actually was from a big oak tree that fell in again probably anything up to 10 years ago. Too big for us to move, so we've just left it there, and they're gradually breaking down. So the next swim that we're coming up to is a swim called Rambo's, named after a great guy who was fishing down here, possibly late 70s, certainly in the early 80s when I met him, Steve. This is Rambo's swim, named Rambo's swim purely because it was one of his favourite swims, and it gives you sort of two options. You can either fish from here out along these margins, or over, depending on where other people are fishing, over towards the pads. The fish will often be seen moving up and down these margins if they move up and down the lake, back from the shallow end down to the deeper end of the lake. But also you can sneak, although we do need a work party which is happening tomorrow, you can sneak a rod out of this area here, and then you're fishing towards the sort of boathouse area there. This is the old boathouse, possibly the last time this is ever going to be seen, because we're hoping that at the work party tomorrow it's going to come down, and the landlord has suggested that he will be replacing it with something. Whether it's something similar or a different structure is yet to be decided. Some real old history this is. The boathouse swim. Shame to see it going away, but as you can see it's totally collapsed now. Going along here, this used to be a swim many years ago when I first started fishing in 1984. This was actually one of my favourite swims. We've blocked it off purely just because so many people want to fish across to the boathouse swim, or to the area of the boathouse. It was causing the occasional argument, so we've blocked that off probably 5-6 years ago, and it's no longer a swim. So then we get to the right and left zincs. Again, some work just about to be done on these at the work party tomorrow. This one here is the right zinc. As you can see, got quite a bit of water in front of it, but again it's literally margin fishing, keeping quiet on this side, casting a rod down to the left, down to the right, very close in fishing, and obviously commanding some beautiful views of the village up the road. And then this one here, again, that needs a bit of work carrying out. This is the left zinc, and again a similar sort of situation whereby it's got some water in front of it, but at the same time you really need to be able to fish right or left of the margins here. A nice little cosy swim, this next one. This is the cave. Once you've got your bivvy up in here, you believe me, you're very well cosy. This is the swim that I used to fish across to from Stan's, and I would have been literally, I suppose, fishing just down into the water, into the margins just down here. But again, there's some margin along here which is also very well patrolled by the fish. A little bit later on in the year there's some more pads coming up there, so there's something that's actually a feature that is attracting the fish. So moving on, I never get over that view. It's so lovely when it's like that. The next swim here is the 26, called the 26 because again, going back to the sort of mid-80s, there was a fish that was always caught from there, or two fish actually, roughly the same weight, 26 pounds. and hence the reason it became called the 26. You could virtually guarantee if you're going to fish this swim and fish just off of there, the fish that you would catch would be one of these two 26-pounders, which back in the early to mid 80s wasn't a bad fish at all. Again, don't ignore these margins, and as you can see down there, there are some pads which grow. In actual fact, I think I've just this second spooked a fish down there. Not sure if we're going to be able to see that, but they do get really close in. And when I'm talking margins, I'm not talking an underarm flick away necessarily. I'm talking sometimes you have to pull your rods back off of the edge so that you can put your tips literally just over the edge of the lake. Walking down here now, it's the oak tree swim. Now this is a swim which I've never been particularly fond of, always because I've been worried about this huge great branch that's always looked like it's going to fall off, and sure enough this year it actually did, and there's what we've been left with. Fortunately came down into the water, but the majority of it did land straight down here, and as you can see, these are the bits that remain from when we've cut it out that we weren't actually able to physically move because they're that big. We've got the plaque there to 3 previous members, friend of mine who I used to fish here a lot with, Graham Dodd, Steve Bangott, who is Rambo, and Steve the Professor, who was actually fishing here definitely late 70s, had a lot of success on peanuts. Obviously they're currently banned, but yeah, these 3 guys here all had some sort of history and all are unfortunately no longer with us. Pretty much like this tree's going to be at some stage. As you can see, it's really looking worse for wear. So at some stage we're going to have to take this whole tree down, but it is still well and truly alive, as you can see by all the leaves. And evidently oak trees are fairly good at shedding their boughs without causing too much of a problem to the rest of the tree. So this is the swim, as you can see. Again, it's one of those swims that you're looking to chuck right to the margins there, or over there towards the snag, or even just under these trees here. The fish do come right into this corner. I'll show you the corner in a moment. But again, this is a lovely swim, as is the 26 next door, for floater fishing, because the wind predominantly comes from behind you. You can put some floaters out, let them drift out there. The warmth that comes onto this part of the lake is for the longest of the day, and therefore the fish do get down here. They just sort of congregate around here. You can see them sometimes in numbers, and it is quite frustrating because they don't seem to want to know. But then once you get that trigger fish, that first fish that's taken a bait off the surface, leave it a little while longer, next fish, and eventually they all start going, and that's when to introduce a surface bait. Chum mix is traditionally the floating bait of choice. So that's pretty much it. That is the lake with regard to the swims. This side here, again for obvious reasons, is the field side. So you've got the wood side over there, and you've got the dam or the car park side there. And finally, just this one little corner here. There's no swim here, but as you can see, this is a little corner that the fish do get into. Absolutely lovely little corner. And again, you know, we've got no problems. If people want to go do a bit of stalking, they're more than welcome. And I would strongly recommend a little float or something over the back of these reeds. That's pretty much all I've got to, all the information I can share on Hook Lake. If you do decide to join, we do renew the waiting list on the 1st of February every year. So we work from a live waiting list. Normally within a month we're anything up to sort of 80 people on that list. With 25 members, possibly anything up to only 10 leaving, does mean that the chances of actually getting in, you just basically need to be quick on the draw on the 1st of February, 9 AM on the website www.hooklake.co.uk. That's it, that's me, I'm out of here. Hope you hope you've enjoyed the walk around the lake, and hopefully look forward to seeing you fishing it one day.